I'm Dan.
And I'm Andy. Welcome to Video Maker's Deconstructing Editing, where we examine great movie scenes with spectacular editing and then break them down to find out why exactly they're so highly revered.
Now we're going to take a look at a scene from the classic Alfred Hitchcock film, Psycho. Released in 1960, this film terrified viewers and had people thinking twice about taking a shower.
Expertly edited by Hitchcock's go-to editor, George Tomasini, this film took fast-cutting action to a new level. In this scene, Marion Crane, played by Janet Leigh, gets a shocking surprise as she takes a shower at the Bates Motel.
Well, it's clear to see why that was one of the most memorable scenes in cinema history. So, what did you take from that, Andy?
Well, everything that was going on there, I mean, it took 7 days to shoot, 77 different camera angles, only 50 of them were used. The whole time it was nothing but like close-ups in the middle for all the stabbing. Yeah, exactly.
He might have stabbed her 77 times, seriously.
Yeah, it was...
Yeah, what was kind of interesting was that it started off sort of slow. I don't know if you noticed, the cuts were very few at first when she was entering the shower.
Yeah.
And the music also kind of wasn't quite there yet either. There was no music as she was entering the shower. It's kind of like, what's going on in the scene, what's going to happen. Kind of built that suspense a little bit. But I think almost the majority of the cuts came in when suddenly, that guy had the knife in his hand and he was stabbing her in the shower. I'm pretty sure then you suddenly saw probably almost all 50 of those cuts. And then after she had kind of died, or whatever you want to call that exactly, when she fell out of the shower, the cuts got a little slower again. I mean, that one shot that went from the drain to her eye, which really showed the fact that, life had drained from her, right?
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool, was very slow. It wasn't a very fast cut scene. It was, it's cut very slow. In fact, there's only 2 cuts at that point in time, which was a big section of time, probably like 20 seconds. But that just kind of is a credit to the editor there, that he decided to make the pace go a little faster by putting in a lot of cuts while the stabbing was happening, but then made it go a lot slower afterwards and beforehand when the suspense was kind of building.
So what I found crazy about the whole shower scene was when the camera was looking at the shower head itself,
right,
they covered up the middle shower heads so no water would get on the camera, and but you would still have the feeling that you're in the shower with her.
Right.
Like nowadays, little tiny GoPros and like little cases, You just like throw it in the river.
Yeah, who cares? You know,
Yeah.
just drop it from an airplane, see what happens, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I also noticed too that the music was kind of interesting because, like I said, at first there was no music, right? And that was something that that the director, Alfred Hitchcock, actually wanted. He didn't want any music at the beginning or at the end. In fact, he didn't want music at all throughout the whole thing. But now we couldn't really imagine that happening because that music is so classic, right? That screeching, string music, and people use that all the time in comedy movies and stuff like that because it's just everyone knows it. But at the time, he didn't actually want any of that. But his composer, which was Bernard Herrmann, he decided that he was going to show like a sample piece to Alfred Hitchcock to see if he would like to add a little bit of music. And so he came up with that screeching violin thing, which hadn't really happened up until then. Yeah, exactly. But I think it worked really well. I mean, right?
It's synonymous with like this action with a knife. I mean, that's what you think.
Yeah, if you're going to do this with a knife, you got to have screeching strings.
That's
Exactly.
it. So you were talking about before that the lady died on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you really watch it, as it pulls back from the lady,
Right.
you can see her eye twitch.
I saw that.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you can
yeah.
see some breathing.
Right.
And she's like, because it must be very uncomfortable because she's lying
yeah.
over the tub.
And you see
and
that
then
she had
down on
like
the
a
ground.
drop of water at the corner of her
Yeah.
eye there that was about to hit her eyeball. I'm sure
Yeah.
that was very uncomfortable as well. So
Yeah.
I would have twitched
You're like
myself.
rubbing it. You're like, get it out of my eye.
Right, but as an editor, you would think that you would want to cut that part out before it got there. But
Yeah.
we'll give them a little break. It's 1950s, right?
It's a great movie.
Yeah, exactly. But I also noticed that there was a point in the film where she was in the shower, and I kind of had a feeling this might happen, but you saw her hair kind of half dry, half wet, and suddenly the next shot, just like that, the next cut, it was completely wet. And I was like, well, I'm not sure that would happen in real life. But still, again, 1950s, we'll give them a little break, but it was a continuity error, and those are things to kind of look for in your edits. Well, we could talk forever about this classic scene from Psycho, but I think Andy took a cue from the movie and hasn't showered in weeks. So in our next segment, we'll be watching a scene from Edgar Wright's offbeat action comedy, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
This mashup story of music, movies, comic books, and video games used creative editing to give the film a surreal comic book feel.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.